Hi beautifuls. I have a part 2 of the important collective update that I did the other day. I got off and I was like, all these other things came through and I was like, oh, and I meant to say that too, but obviously it needed to be in its own part 2 message. And you know, as time's gone on, I'm like, oh, it really did, because that message the other day was really strong. The magic isn't in the land anymore, it's in us, it's been activated in us, all of those pieces. So this part 2, I want to talk about the birthing of a new era. I want to talk about the energies that are really crucial for the next 2 weeks. And also in our last full moon ceremony that we did at the start of August, I channeled through a specific message for the group about October 14. And I really wanted to speak to that. One of my beautiful clients and students had reminded me of that. And I was like, that message too. And it's a really important message because we've got these next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks decides the timeline you will sit on. And then October 14 is another really important point. I want to say almost dangerous point. When the message came through in the full moon ceremony, I was like, oh, should I have said that? I was like, but this is what I'm seeing and I needed to share it. And it was like channeling through in the full moon ceremony. So I'm like, we need to pay attention to this. So I'm going to share that. I'm just going to share this live stream and then I'll be really present with you. So as I'm just sharing this and starting this really important message of part 2, just wanting to check in, like, how are you feeling? Let me know where you're at. Do you feel a shift from the past couple of days? The new moon energy has been horrendous. Like, we've just been like, whoa, on this sort of roller coaster. But let me know how you're feeling. Let me share this so I can properly jump into it, because I'll just keep talking otherwise. So just hang on a second. But let me know how you're feeling. So let me know if this is the first time to my live stream and where you're tuning in from around the world. And how are you feeling now compared to the last few days, or, you know, just in general? Even the last month, it's been really huge energies, Lion's Gate and all of those pieces. Okay, I'll just share this in one more place and then we will be good to go. Hello, hello. Okay. Now I'm just gonna bring this up. Other comments. Okay, cool. All right, so if you've just joined, welcome. So I went through a little bit of a debrief just before, so you can watch the replay or you can just tune in now. And just bring my notes up to make sure I stay tight with this as well. Okay, so for those of you who watched part 1 the other day, I didn't know it was going to be a part 1 and a part 2, but it is. And I was really speaking about these timelines coming into this convergence and then sort of coming into different timelines, right? We spoke a lot about that. Now, in my intuitive channel yesterday, I channeled like about a 15-minute message. My intuitive channel is on Telegram. It's a private channel where I drop in intuitive energy updates, psychic readings, messages, intuitive messages for the group each day as well. So anyway, so yesterday, so if you'd like the link for that, just comment intuitive and I can send you the details. It's like getting a personal text message from me every day almost with what's going on. So you get all the goss, all the intuitive goss. Anyway, the point is that I dropped a 15-minute message in there yesterday, and this came through, like this little, I'm going to speak about a little section of it. This came through, and then this morning I was getting a message that I need to share this publicly because it really relates to October 14th, and it really relates to the next 2 weeks are crucial. So I'm going to share a blog in the coming days about some really, I want to say dramatic birthings that are going on. But really, like, as a collective, we're birthing a new era. Like, there's so many people waking up to the truth. Like I know that there's, you know, I see a lot of, there's both, of course, right? But there's so much more people waking up to the truth than there was asleep. Like, of course it's a no-brainer, like logical aspect, but when we really look at it, there's a lot more people that are awake and waking up, and they're just like, that doesn't make logical sense. Or like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many people, and even if they're not consciously saying it or talking to it, because we know what happens when we wake up, right? Who remembers this? Who remembers this? When we have a spiritual awakening and we talk to our friends about it, or we talk to people closest to us if they're not having an awakening as well, and they just look at us like we're crazy. Give me some love hearts or whatever if you guys remember that. Like, and maybe you're still in that point. For me, I don't have anyone around me who's not awake, so but I forgot about that. Like, anyway, the point is that there's a lot of people waking up, and we're birthing a new era. And so when we're birthing this new era, it's like there's so many people waking up, and that's exciting. Like, that's really, really exciting. But what it also calls for you is for you to step into your leadership, is for you to share your voice, is for you to share your message. Now, as we're moving from throat chakra consciousness into heart chakra consciousness, throat chakra obviously is speaking your truth, but also living your truth. And that's where it drops into the heart, because the heart is the feeling, living, doing. It's the first part of our body that moves, right? From here up is just like the thinking head gets stuck in your head, logical, whereas here's feeling, doing. It's the action time. We're like, so we're living our truth and our thoughts, and there is a lot of people waking up, and it's important for you to step up and share your message. So Cherry says, it has been horrendous this last week. Can feel it starting to finally shift. Yeah, 100%. It's been horrendous. Like the word for it, right? This huge birthing. Now, we're doing it as a collective, and we're also going through our own personal stuff. And it feels like it's only our personal stuff that we're going through, right? Like, yeah, it's just I'm just all on my own going through this. But then we'll hear the collective, and we're like, oh, it's the collective, but we're like, oh, but we're just so like in our stuff, it's hard for us to, we hear it, but we don't, right? So the main part of this message I want to share, let's jump into this bit here. So the next 2 weeks of this energy, because I shared the other day on part 1 that it was like I was driving along and I got the message. It was like, oh, something big's happening on the 15th of August, like 15th of August. And I'm like driving along, and I'm like, what is the date? And then I glance at my phone, and I'm like, it's the 16th. I was like, oh yeah, we're in it. It's like a time warp. I was like, are we still in friggin' July? I'm like, here we are already in August or something, right? And then I was like, when I was tuning into that, I was like, oh, we're in it, and this is part of the thing. It's like, when's the big shift? Like overnight, it's kind of like, we're in it. But the point about these 2 weeks is because when I like realized that, and I was like, oh, we're in it. And then obviously more and more information has dropped in. So like I said, the other day, I drew this little diagram thing. If you saw my live stream the other day, just comment replay. If you actually don't comment replay, comment part 1 and I'll send you the link for part 1 if you haven't seen that. So I did this on the part 1 the other day, the timelines coming into this convergence and coming back out. Now this piece that I'm going to show you now on my new drawing, because I'm very visual, so I like visually explaining things, trying to explain the things I see in my head. So this next 2 weeks, right, that I was showing, like I'm in myself, I'm like, oh, is that like that we're in this part and we're about to push out to this part? I don't really know, okay, but it kind of makes sense to me. So what I saw for the next 2 weeks in August is like this, just getting my right pens here. So, okay, let's just say it. I'm just going to draw what I see and then sort of, I don't know. I don't even know. It's kind of like this, just this, almost like a cylinder, but not. It's like, it's this sort of cylinder-y thing. It is a cylinder-y thing, right? So if that was a round cylinder, because my like, I don't know, how do we draw 3D on here? That's not gonna work. Oh, it does look like it a little bit. There we go. Anyway, you can see I'm a real good artist. Well, I kind of am, but it takes practice. Anyway, so I saw the next 2 weeks, so the last 2 weeks of August, like a cylinder, and it's spinning. don't ask me why, but that's what I see, like with the feeling of the energies. And really, if we think about it, like as Cherry said, and a lot of us have been feeling like the energy's been horrendous and dark, and a lot of suicidal thoughts, and it's like it's a part of the death shedding old consciousness cycle. It's normal to think those things when we're feeling that level of collective death, like change, transformation, like 100%. Oh, and the other thing that Spirit said to me about this, and in essence from part 1 live stream, when I said, you know, when we're talking about Maui and the land, the magic's not in the land anymore, it's activated in us. The other thing from this morning, I'm just getting it out on my phone because I put it in there as a note. I'm always like writing notes to myself. I get a zillion thoughts in a day. I'm like, hang on, nothing is destroyed, only transformed. We know that, right? But it sort of made a lot of sense too when like the whole, you know, the land magic thing that I was talking about in part 1, and it was like, they might have destroyed it, but it was transformed and activated into us. I'm covered in goosebumps as I say this, goosebumps. So coming back to this next 2 weeks, these last 2 weeks in August, saw it like this cylinder. It's spinning. This is all white, by the way. It's not dark. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels very light and white. Obviously, I'm just drawing on white paper, so I'm using this, but it's white. And it's like a spinning tube, right? Again, don't ask me why. And if you look at like, is this August, like the first half of August? And is this the second half of August? And is this September? I don't know. But just sharing that it's like this cylinder. And what I was getting is like, when we're like, you know, coming up to these energies, right? If we're traveling this way in whatever that means, and this is spinning, as it gets closer to the spin, it's going to feel the most horrendous because it's like gripping on and ow, it's happening. We just get taken for a ride. And then once we're in it, and so we're spinning now is the sense, because I was driving along, it was the 15th, which was the other day, and I was like, oh, like that was the most horrendous part, but now we're in it and we're spinning, and this is like, does that mean that at the first sort of weekish of September, as we come out of this spin, it's going to be a little bit like, hold on to your hats. Actually, it might do, because at the end of August is a blue moon. And it's the last full moon ceremony that I'm ever holding for a while. I've been doing full moon ceremonies every month for the past 7 years. Let's comprehend that for a minute. Every month for the past 7 years, I've been holding a full moon ceremony, and now I'm stopping them on the blue moon that came in solstice a couple of months back. So if you want to join our very last full moon ceremony, just comment full moon and I'll pop the link in for you. On the comments, we'll be starting on the, we're finishing on the blue moon. Anyway, the point is that there's a blue moon here, right? So the energies are going to be big, and isn't it interesting, from like new moon to full moon, we're going through this transformative cycle. Now, we know that going through a moon cycle each month, from new moon, from dark new moon to new moon and up to full moon, is, you know, there's a lot of transformation that can happen in that time, but I've never seen it like this. Is this what it's going to be all the time? I don't know. I personally feel this has a lot to do with Lionsgate being activated, a different trajectory that we're going on. The Mayan calendar starts in August, like the new cycle. Like, do you know what I mean? So I'm like, it just feels like a new cycle, and it's almost like I don't know what the word is. There's not a word coming through for it yet. So the point that I'm sharing this is really important information is because when I got shown this, and I'm like asking more questions, by the way, so a little intuitive tip, when you get psychic visions, when you get information, when you get a feeling, when you get something, right? When you get information psychically and you're like, I don't know what that means. Ask for more information. It's quite simple. Before you go to the psychic, before you go to the healer, before you go to your mentor, like ask yourself, ask your own intuition. Can I please have more information about this, right? Like, you know, number one, first protocol. Is a good way to train and strengthen your intuition and understand the language of your intuition. Really important. So, so I'm asking for more information. And the sense that I got is that this is setting the tone and the frequency for the timeline that you're going to pop out onto. Now, when they showed me the cylinder, I was like, well, that kind of makes a lot of sense on the part 1 live stream. And I said that we're traveling through and we're sort of in this convergence, like transformation, the trajectory of which timeline we're going on, like, do you know what I mean? And this sort of more detailed, exactly what it is, like, it doesn't feel like a, although it can feel like that. It's like, you know, this spin. And so the really important message, if there's one thing you're going to take away from this, do not falter and do not drop what you're holding, the vision of your life, of your standards, of, I don't know, the business you run, of what you charge, of what you're holding, a new frequency in your relationships, of your boundaries, of your career path, of what you've chosen, and then everyone tells you not to, and then you know, and then everyone turns against you, and like, just hold your fucking vision, okay? In this next 2 weeks, like, you will be tested. Like, we're in a freaking like spin right now. You will be tested. It'll be like pulled out of you, and like you can feel it, okay? But the reason why it's so important to hold that, no matter what anyone says, and even you doubt your own self, but you still do it anyway, okay, is because what's going to happen is that's whatever you're holding, the most dominant frequency for yourself and your life over these next 2 weeks, is the frequency timeline that you're going to pop out on. So if you're full of self-doubt and confusion and buying into that, okay, there's a really important difference here around feeling all your emotions. Okay, I was a wreck this week, okay, crying. You probably see I've still got puffy eyes from it, and I'm going to talk more about that in the upcoming vlogs. Like this, you know, like, it doesn't mean that you don't feel those negative emotions. It means that you ride it consciously. You're not burying it, you're not suppressing it, but you're also choosing what you're like. Because the thing is that when we're grieving the old, or it's not working, or this, or doubts, or fears, or criticism, or whatever's coming up for you, it's purging out of your fucking system. This is spinning a certain vibration through your body. It's a bit like when I say the solar flares are like a sieve that comes through our aura, and you know, like a sieve, like your wash your veggies and stuff in a strainer, and it's like, you know, it's like a sieve that comes through every time, and it pulls out all the shit, you know, when it goes through our aura. And it's kind of what it feels like, because it's like, what's happening? Falling asleep and all sorts of things, because it's just a lot, right? And so you have to, and like I said, I'm like, when I say hold the frequency of your highest vision and your highest ideals and your highest life, okay, this is like, you know, like holding that new frequency. All the doubts, all the fears, all the insecurities, all the criticism, all the old paradigms are going to surface, okay? They're going to surface. So they should be. Why? Because it's purging out of your system. Nothing comes up like this unless it's purging. Always remember that, okay? So when we're purging, holding the frequency, because then you're going to pop out in the new frequency that you've been holding whilst everything's purging. Unless you buy into that, meaning like, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm shit, I'm whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you don't have that second level conscious awareness that you're purging out. Does that make sense? Okay. There's a very strong difference here when we're purging old emotions and we're purging old stuff out. That is so important. It is so important that to feel it all, okay, do not ever suppress it unless you're, I don't know. They're talking to the president, and I'm like, no, don't worry about that either. Whatever, you get that point, right? There's sort of no reason to suppress it. Like, you might need to suppress it because you need to get through your day, but when you get home and go to bed or wake up in the night, let yourself cry, okay? Get it out. But it's like holding that frequency. But if you don't have the conscious awareness that you're grieving because it's coming out and you're purging from your system because your body can no longer hold it, okay, it's like, good, get it out of me. It's time to release this. You know that it's because of this, and you're holding that frequency because you've chosen a higher timeline for yourself, your life, your purpose, your career, your relationships, the standard of life that you live, that you're living, the people you have in your life, the money you earn in your business, that all those things, right? The wealth, the creation, the assets, the purpose, the impact, the your health, all of the things, okay? So important. Okay, so Okay, let me just check. I'll come back to comments in a second. I'll just make sure. Oh, it's okay. So leading into October 14th message. I'll just put this down for a minute, but it's so important. And so, sorry, just one last little thing here. Like I said, remember when we are, when we're just coming into it, it felt really horrendous this week. Okay, that's because we're just coming into it. And then, like I said, I kept getting around the 2-week message that this will last. And then we're going to pop out into whichever timeline, you know, your frequency has been holding. Like, and when I say holding, it doesn't mean you have to be, I'm feeling amazing. When you're feeling like shit and all the stuff's purging out, it means that, again, it's the conscious awareness of what you're choosing for yourself. So, for example, you could be grieving a relationship breakup, let's say, okay? You could be grieving a relationship breakup, but you know in yourself that this is for the best, and you know that you couldn't stay in that toxic relationship, for example, right? And so you know that you're choosing a higher timeline by leaving a toxic relationship, but all the grief feels like you're down in this lower timeline, if that's a lower, higher, whatever. You know, like it feels like you're down here, but you know you're feeling the grief because you've chosen to walk away and to make a better life and a healthier life for yourself. Does that make sense? So really, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's so important to, understand that. Anyway, I trust you guys get it. So, so just last little note before I put this down and talk about October 14th. So just be mindful. Not only will we be popping out of this cylindrical spin, is that a word? I think it is. I don't know. Otherwise, I just made it up. So the end of August, beginning of September, the first weekish, they probably cross over there. I haven't looked at dates. Plus, there's a blue moon at the end of August. So the blue moon combined with this, but we had the new moon combined with this. So we got this. We know what's coming. And maybe it won't be so dramatically horrendous because we've come through the spin. It's like the spin cycle in the washing machine, and it like gets rid of all the excess. Hopefully that's what it is. So when we come out, we'll be good to go. And we can choose that. But if we're still purging, we know how to hold this, okay? All right. So the October 14th message. So like I said, in the full moon ceremony at the start of August, you know, channeling the ceremony as I do, done it for 7 years. Last one after 7 years will be on the blue moon at the end of August. So if you want to join the very last full moon ceremony, they'll be holding for quite some time because I'll be working on another project. Just type in full moon and I'll send you the details. So in that full moon ceremony, it came through so strong. Like I was shown a vision and I share the vision, that's what I do. But the message like was really strong around October 14th, and I said it in there and everything. And then afterwards I was like even when I'm channeling things, I'm like, should I have said that? You know, like, should I have said that? It seemed bad, but it also, you know, it wasn't, you know, like I'm not, whatever. It's not bad. I was just, you know, I was like, oh, was that just a message for me? Do I need to share this? And I shared it in the ceremony. I was like, I don't know if I needed to share that. And I was like, no, I felt like I did. It was like, it was coming through in ceremony. I share everything in ceremony. So, I've been, I guess, a little bit more conscious of the, I don't know what they're called, like the NASA charts that measure all the magnetic fields of the earth and the solar, not just the solar flares, but how that affects our magnetic field and all the things, right? I've been a bit more conscious of it in the last maybe 2 to 3 months. So I don't understand those charts fully yet because I'm only just being more conscious of them. I'm like, I'm looking at something, but I don't quite know what it means, but I guess I'm studying it in a way, right? Intuitively studying it. I'm not like every day studying it. So I'm just conscious of it. It's in my awareness. I'm quite conscious of it, especially because of what's happening on Earth at the moment. And anyway, in the ceremony, I was shown like a big blast, if you may. And I was like, okay. And it was like October 14th. So you need to be ready by October 14th. And what ready meant, it was like, you need to detox your body now. You need to get as fit and as healthy as you can now, so you are not wiped and floored by this. October 14th. I don't know. I'm like, text my astrologer, like, and I was like, anything on the October 14th? Like, what's going on? Not just my chart, like collective, what's happening? He did say something about the south and north nodes of the moon or something like that. I need to speak to him again about it. but you know, it was kind of like there is a bit going on there, if you may. And then, yeah, and so the main message was like, you know, if we know that we get affected and get quite wiped or what have you about solar flares, magnetic stuff, Schumann's resonance, all the things that we can feel outside of us, especially as a healer who's highly sensitive, empath, whatever you want to call yourself, psychic person, all of those people, all of us. If you know you get affected by that, and if you know that your body and your health is not up to scratch, if you don't take heed in this message, you might get wiped. Sounds kind of dramatic, right? No, what I mean by that is that, like, it'll floor you, right? You might be, I don't know, knocked out for a day. No, I don't know. I don't know. We might get to October 14 and it's like, I don't know, there was nothing. But the point is, it was more about detox your body from heavy metals, do detoxes. If you're going to stop, you know, or add something healthy or more exercise or get strong and fit, like now's the time to do it. You've got time leading up to the 14th of October, and just get really healthy and fit as possible, as much as possible. Don't need to worry and go extreme. It's like there's already things that you've been thinking about doing. It could be going for more exercise. You don't even have to change your diet. It could be drinking more water. It could be going outside and getting more exercise. It could be, you know, like consciously making an effort to do exercise every day. And by that, it could be, yes, going to the gym every day, but it could be just going for a long walk every day. Like it could be like whatever's been on your mind, do not delay that now, right? And if you're super fit and healthy, what's your next level to that? Okay. So that was the really strong message that came through in the full moon ceremony. Like I said, we've got our blue moon coming up at the end of August. Maybe another message will come through then, I don't know. But I am sharing this message because it was important, you know, and it's not like a fear thing. It's like, you know, when we hear all this stuff, it's just like, there's already things you've been thinking of. Like, I'm not telling you anything new, like for real, right? You would have already been thinking that you need to do this or that, or it's just like double confirmation because, you know, it's coming, whatever that is. All right. So also the last little thing is that when I said the other day that I wasn't going to do psychic readings for a time, I had a lot of messages and emails from people saying that I want a psychic reading. And I was like, okay. So I've just changed a little bit, and until the end of August, I'm doing a 3-card reading for $33. It's crazy. I know, it's ridiculous. It's audio recorded and I email off to you. So if you'd like a 3-card reading for $33, just type in 33 and I can send you the link for that. As I said, if you want the details for the full moon ceremony, just type in full moon. I'll pop that in for you as well. Or if you'd rather the intuitive channel, or if you want all of them, just type all. I'll put on all the ones for you. The intuitive channel is where I drop in daily messages, insight, guidance, energy updates, whatever's going on in the field. That's what I will pop in the group for you. And it's like you get a personal text message from me if you have Telegram. So that's this second part. Really just wanted to share that. Be really mindful for the next 2 weeks of what you're holding, what you're choosing, okay? What you're choosing and what you're holding, you might be purging out of your system while you're choosing a new timeline. But just know that whatever, like just, it'll be testing. It'll be like, you know what I mean? I mean, you might have gone through the worst of it now and you're like, I'm good now. It's like, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. And I'm like, no, man, like tight, tight, tight. I mean, like, how are you turning up? How do you want your life to be? Like, now's the time to freaking choose that and do not settle for less, because you're going to pop out and that's going to be the trajectory that you go for. Okay. All right. Just going to check these comments here. Thank you guys for being here. Yes, emotions. It is happening fast. There is a lot of stuff happening fast for sure. Oh yeah. And if you didn't catch part 1, just comment part 1 below and I'll send you that as well. That's no worries. The replay for that the other day that we did. Yeah, you're so welcome. Kari says she definitely feels like she's spinning. So, and this is the thing, when we can understand these energies, like, you know, you feel like you're spinning, or you feel like we're all like, yes, there's all these things going on, you know, in the solar system and the galaxies, and it's affecting us and whatever we're going through on a collective level, and we're awakening, that I, you know, shared the other day on the part 1 about this image here, you know, like we're awakening, and it's going to affect everything. We're feeling those energetics. And so when it feels like you're in a spin, or it feels like all these things, if you can remember this sort of stuff, and it's like, okay, well, what am I going to choose from this space? Because there's a lot of collective clearness in the air, and it is a really potent time, you know, to choose this with these timelines at this point after the Lionsgate. I really do feel that, yeah. Definitely more intense. Yes, so great to hear. You woke very unsure. So yeah, so locally, I know you're local to where I am, Jenny, there's the planets have been coming out. Like yesterday was so full on, super windy here today. Like I just feel like the planets were passing yesterday, and it was really weird energy yesterday, but really windy, and just there's like, yes, like, yeah, there's a lot of that going on. This isn't about career, it's about seriously saving the planet. Yeah, exactly right. It's this big like shift, and this is where I think a lot of people are waking up, because they're just like, what are we doing? Like, not just what are we doing to the planet, it's kind of like, what's the point of this, you know? And like all the untruths coming out, and you know, all the lies are being shown, and people are just like, well, that doesn't make sense. And they're starting to see through it, and they're like, well, what are we doing? And it's so funny, I saw this like, where did I see it? Or someone said it to me. This like reel on Instagram, and it was something like, you know, it was all these chopped together clips or whatever, and this guy was speaking, and he's like, dear politicians, and he's in the courtroom or whatever, he's like, so we want to talk about AI, because, you know, they're going to take over the world. And I'm not speaking it word for word, by the way, but it was so funny. And he's like, so, you know, we're all going to be jobless soon, so I think that we should just program our AI to pay us 10 grand a month, and then we can just party and go to the beach, and then you guys can do this and get that sorted behind the scenes, and then because you guys are going to lose your jobs too, like talking to the politicians, so you guys are going to lose your jobs too, and then you know, then we can all just, I'll see you at the beach. And I was like, that's so brilliant. Everyone's scared of AI. I'm like, let's program. No. But also, what are you choosing, right? You can choose the highest timeline for yourself, not necessarily that one, but sorry, and I'm talking about saving the planet. I'm like, well, so that just came to mind, because it's like everyone's like waking up to these truths, and they're like, well, what are we doing working at this unfulfilling job? Like, the thing that's really happening on the planet is people waking up to their purpose. And I've said for a long time, you know, I've seen it in my visions for a long time. It's why I do what I do, and I share what I share, because when everybody is in full alignment with their purpose and living it, everyone is in symbiotic harmony, just like nature. There's no flower or bee or wind or rain out of place. There's no stick or everyone, it's all just in symbiotic nature. That's what's happening now with people waking up. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of weird weather stuff going on. Big time. Big time. So just, we're going through it together. Okay? Have a beautiful day, weekend, night, evening, week, whenever you're watching this, and I shall see you soon.